Hey everybody, this is Rykard here again, and welcome to another Pokemon X and Y analysis video. Today's video is all about Noivern, so let's get started by taking a look at this Pokemon's typing, abilities, and stats. So to start things off, Noivern is a flying dragon-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 6, and although this typing has been done a couple of times before, Noivern is still very different when compared to the other Pokemon that do share this typing. But as for its abilities, the first one that it gets is known as Frisk, which is an ability that allows Noivern to see what item its opponent is holding when it enters the battlefield. And this can be particularly useful for allowing you to scout for some information on the type of set your opponent might be running, and then plan your course of action in the battle accordingly based upon what type of set their item potentially reveals them to be running. As for its next ability, it is known as Infiltrator, which is an ability that is really great this generation as it allows you to bypass the effects of Light Screen, Reflect, Safeguard, and now Substitutes, pretty much allowing Noivern to not have to worry about any boosts that your team or your opponent's team might be getting through any of those moves, and just completely bypass subs completely and allow you to do direct damage to your opponents without ever having to worry about breaking a sub, which is really great and especially useful on any offensive Noivern set. But as for its last ability, it is a fantastic ability for teams purposes, or doubles, whichever you want to call it. It is known as Telepathy, which is its hidden ability, and makes it so that this Pokemon won't take any extraneous damage from any attacks that damage every single Pokemon on the field, such as Surf, which can be very beneficial for allowing Noivern to be used very easily in a doubles or triples battle, to not really have to worry about it taking any extra damage that you might accidentally be causing because of the moves that you're using that have total field coverage. So that is something to just keep in mind when using this set, especially if you were going to be using Noivern in a doubles environment. But as for its stats, its defenses are actually pretty great, with base 85 HP, 80 defense, and 80 special defense, meaning that Noivern is not going to be extremely frail like many other offensive Pokemon are, and it very much so is possible for you to even EV this Pokemon in defense to allow it to be a walling type set, as it does have a couple of really good support moves to make use of as well for those purposes. But as for its attacking stats, Noivern has base 70 physical attack, which isn't particularly great. However, it does have access to Hone Claws, which can be used to boost its physical attack. But the attack that you're probably going to be using more often than not is going to be its special attack, which is base 97, which is a very good number and will definitely allow Noivern to do some really great damage with all of its special moves that it learns and hurting your opponents for some really solid special damage. And the last thing to note about Noivern is that its speed is a whopping 123 base, which makes Noivern effectively the fastest dragon-type Pokemon to date, which is really great for this Pokemon and will allow it to outspeed a ton of different attackers and dish out some really heavy damage to anything that stands in its way. So for the first set that I have for you in this video, we are going to start this one off by giving you either a timid nature to increase your speed but lower your physical attack, or a modest nature to increase your special attack but lower your physical attack. And for the ability, we're going to be going with Infiltrator. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into your special attack to max that out, 4 into your special defense, and then 252 EVs into your speed to also max that out. But it is also important to note that at level 50, if you are using this over Pokemon X and Y Wi-Fi, you are actually going to want to swap out those 4 special defense EVs and put them in your HP instead to make sure that you have an odd HP number, which is very important for when the game calculates Stealth Rock damage, to make sure you can live an extra switch in due to those Stealth Rocks taking away 25% of your health every time you switch in, if they are on the field. But as for the item, the multiple of options that we have for this set are going to start off with a Choice Scarf to increase your speed by 1 stage but lock you into a move, the Choice Specs to increase your special attack by 1 stage but lock you into a move, a Life Orb to increase the damage of all of your attacks, obviously allowing you to now freely use all of your attacks, but also giving you a 10% recoil every time you do hit an opponent, or an Expert Belt to allow you to have some more damage on all of the attacks that hit your opponent for super effective damage. But as for the moves, the first one that we're going to be going with on this set is going to be our main Dragon-type special stab move in the form of either Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse. Obviously, Draco Meteor, very fantastic because of its immense power. However, it does lower your attack by 2 stages every time you go for it, which makes Dragon Pulse a little bit more reliable of a move. But if you just want to drop a heavy hit on your opponent, Draco Meteor is definitely the way to go. And more often than not, Noivern really won't stay in for more than 1 turn unless your opponent is really weak or something like that. So Draco Meteor, more often than not, will probably be the stronger and better option just for putting a dent in any opponent that might take the hit. But as for your next move, there are actually quite a few options here. You could either go with Hurricane to be an extremely powerful flying type stab move for Noivern, or you could go with Air Slash, which is actually significantly weaker, but does have a chance to flinch, but is also significantly more accurate, whereas Hurricane is significantly more inaccurate, but also has a chance to confuse your opponent. So there are a lot of different things going on there between Flying Stab, but if you want a more reliable move overall, Boom Burst is definitely the way to go, as when taking into account accuracy and things like that, Boom Burst is actually one of the most reliable moves you can go with on this set. It's more powerful than a Stab Air Slash because of its immense power, except this move can't hit things super effectively like Air Slash can, so that is something to keep in mind, but it's still a really reliable move. But also you can run Focus Blast in this spot as well to give you some really good type coverage, specifically against Steel types that would easily be able to take your Stab Dragon moves. But for the third move slot, if you chose not to go with Focus Blast, you can put that right here in the third move slot. You also have the option of running Flamethrowers for some really great coverage to allow you to deal some more damage to even more Steel types that might not really be weak to Focus Blast or hit, the numerous bug Steel Pokemon for 4 times super effective damage. Or you could run Switcheroo in this spot to allow you to trick your item, or switcheroo your item, onto another opponent, potentially choice locking them if you are using the Choice Scarf or Choice Specs variant of the set. But for the last move, you can obviously use U-Turn to allow you to have easy maneuverability around the battlefield, allowing Noivern effectively to be a really effective scout and obviously gain switch initiative for your team. Or if you didn't use Switcheroo in your third spot, you can use that here to give you another way to pass your item off onto your opponent and potentially cripple any attacker that does not want to be locked into a move if you are using the Choice Specs or Choice Scarf variant. Up next, I have another specially offensive set for Noivern to run, but this one focuses more so on boosting its speed. So we're going to start this one off by choosing between the same two natures of Timid and Modest as before, and use the Infiltrator ability to allow us to bypass the effects of Light Screen, Substitute, Reflect, and Safeguard. And for the EVs, we're going to run the same EV spread as before, with 252 special attack EVs, 4 special defense EVs, and 252 speed EVs, as well as taking into account that at level 50, we're going to want to take out those 4 special defense EVs and actually put them into our HP to give us an odd HP number. And for the item, this time we're going to either go with a Life Orb to allow us to do some increased damage with all of our attacks while having that 10% recoil, an Expert Belt to allow us to do increased damage on all attacks that hit our opponents super effectively, or Leftovers as a way to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, the first thing that we're going to be making use of on this set is either going to be Agility or Tailwind. Now, Agility obviously lasts forever, boosting your speed by 2 stages, whereas Tailwind only lasts for 3 turns, I believe, and boosts your speed by 2 stages. However, other teammates can benefit from the effects of Tailwind, whereas other teammates cannot benefit from the effects of Agility. So it's really whichever one you want to go with here as to whether or not you feel like you might need more team support, if you're only going to leave Noivern in for the turns that Tailwind might be up, or if you're just going to set up Tailwind and switch it out, or if you think you're going to just want to sweep right out with Noivern after you set up the Agility, effectively making you faster than pretty much everything in the game at +2. So really, either of these is a really great option for allowing Noivern to boost its speed and outspeed a ton of opponents, and obviously Tailwind can also provide some team support as well. But again, we're going to be going with our main Dragon type attack on this set in the form of Dragon Pulse, and we're going to use this only as opposed to also giving you the option of running Draco Meteor, because this set is meant to be in for a while, whereas using Draco Meteor obviously is more like a one-time thing, like on the previous set. So Dragon Pulse is definitely the more reliable option over time. And then for our second attacking move on this set, we're again going to be choosing between Hurricane, Air Slash, Boom Burst, or Focus Blast, depending on the coverage you want as to whether or not you want to play with a little bit of accuracy in Hurricane, or go for some flinching in Air Slash or something like that. So really, it's whichever one you want to go with there. All of them are really great options. And then for the last move slot, again, Focus Blast or Flamethrower to give you some really great type coverage overall. But this set, unlike the first one, focuses on setting up your speed to make you faster than everything, whereas the first one is more just like flat out offensive. Let's just do as much damage, get as much type coverage as possible, and even be able to scout through the use of U-Turn. But obviously this one can also support teammates through the use of Tailwind as well. Up next, I have a physically offensive set for Noivern to run, so we're going to start this one off by giving it either a Jolly Nature to increase its speed but lower its special attack, or an Adamant Nature to increase its physical attack but lower its special attack, and then again we're going to be using the Infiltrator ability. As for the EVs, we're going to put 252 into our physical attack this time to max that out, 4 into our special defense, and then 252 EVs into your speed to max that out as well. And just like on the previous sets, we are going to swap out those 4 special defense EVs and put them into HP at level 50 to give you the odd HP number. As for the item, we're going to be going first with a choice band as an option to allow you to boost your physical attack by 1 stage while locking you into a move, or we can go with a life orb to increase the damage of all of our attacks while having that 10% recoil, or an expert belt to increase the damage of all of our attacks that hit our opponents for some super effective damage. And if you're wondering why a choice scarf isn't on here for this set, it's mainly because Noivern can't really do too much damage with a choice scarf set from the physical side, so we want to focus just on boosting its physical attack for this particular set. But for the move, since we are a physical variant, we're going to be running Dragon Claw as our main stab dragon type move on this set. And then along with that, we're going to be running Steel Wing as a coverage option specifically for the numerous fairy types that typically wall the crap out of Noivern. Noivern, unlike other dragons that may have a secondary option to deal with fairy types, does not really have a reliable option to deal with fairy types, especially something like Carbink, which just walls it completely. But with Steel Wing on a physical set, you can actually feasibly break through the majority of the fairy types that would be either immune to your dragon type moves or resisting Focus Blast or something like that. And this is really good, especially because most of those fairy types are typically specially defensive, so Steel Wing with a choice band or a life orb or expert belt can potentially land a 2-hit KO on those Pokemon that would want to switch into your dragon moves and then find out that they're going to have to switch out on the following turn because they're going to get 2-hit KO'd by Steel Wing. But to give you some really good coverage along with that, we're going to go with Brick Break to give you a really reliable way to deal with steel types, as the other 2 moves on the set are walled by them. Brick Break obviously will be fantastic for dealing super effective damage. It's kind of redundant with Infiltrator, because normally Brick Break is used to get rid of screens, but we don't even worry about them with this set, which I just kind of find funny. But for the last move on this set, we can use U-Turn as a way to scout very successfully and allow us to obviously gain switch initiative on our opponents. Or if we don't go with the choice band and use Life Orb or Expert Belt, Hone Claws is a really great way for allowing Noivern to boost its physical attack to even higher levels and do even more damage from the physical side if you are able to get up a boost or 2, which is very useful for this Pokemon, especially because its physical attack is the weaker of its attacks, and after a couple of Hone Claws, it will definitely be able to do some really good physical damage after its attack is boosted. And lastly, I have a defensive set for Noivern to run, so we're going to start this one off by giving it a Calm Nature to increase its special defense and lower its physical attack, and for the ability we're going to be choosing between either Infiltrator or Frisk this time. And the reason why I've added Frisk is because this is a more defensive support set, so being able to reveal your opponent's item can be very beneficial for your team as opposed to just being able to break through screens or substitute like with the Infiltrator ability. But as for the EVs, we're going to put 248 into your HP to give you your highest HP number possible, that is an odd digit, 8 into defense, and then 252 EVs into your special defense to max that out. And for the item, we're going to be going with leftovers to recover a little bit of HP at the end of every turn. But as for the moves, the first one we're going to be going with this time is going to be either Taunt or Super Fang. And Taunt is very good for this Pokemon because it is so ridiculously fast that it will pretty much be able to taunt any Pokemon that would want to be able to use any non-attacking moves, such as setting up hazards, or Toxic Stalling you, or healing up their HP with any recovery move, or healing status through Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. Taunt shuts down all of those moves, forcing your opponent to attack. And this is particularly useful when used in combination with a Toxic Spikes user on your team, as any Pokemon that will typically be able to not really be bothered so much by Toxic will be shut down by Taunt because they won't be able to recover their HP, as their HP is slowly draining away due to the poison, forcing them to potentially have to switch out as well, which makes this really good. But if you want to go with a really good move to take out a solid 50% of whatever your opponent's HP is currently at, Super Fang is definitely the move to go for, as this will put a huge dent into pretty much any Pokemon and will allow you to then use another member of your team to potentially take it out very easily, or even use Noivern to take it out after they've already lost 50% of whatever their health was. So both of these are really good options for the first move slot. But we're going to be running Dragon Pulse again as our main stab dragon type special move to do some solid damage with that. And then for a coverage move, we're either going to be choosing between Flamethrower, Focus Blast, or Air Slash. And Air Slash is really great for this set, potentially if you want to get that chance to flinch, which could lead to a KO if you do get that flinch on your opponent. It's very useful if you need that, but Flamethrower and Focus Blast are the better options in terms of just type coverage, as they will allow you to hit steel types very reliably. But since this is a defensive set, the last move is going to be dedicated to Roost, to allow Noivern to recover quite a bit of its HP, 50% for that matter, and also get rid of its flying typing to potentially allow it to take electric type attacks even better, as it will now resist them. Fun fact, but also obviously not take super effective damage from anything that does hit flying types for super effective damage. But this is a really great move just in general to keep its health alive and keep it sustained throughout battle. But there is also another way to run this set. You can run it physically defensive. So in order to do that, we're going to flip over to that slide right now. We're going to switch up the nature to bold to increase our physical defense and lower our physical attack. And then for the EVs, we're going to go 248 HP, 252 physical defense EVs, and then 8 special defense EVs. And everything else on the set is the same. I really don't recommend running a mixed defensive set on Noivern because it really won't be that effective as opposed to just running a fully special defensive or fully physically defensive set. But either one that you decide to run for Noivern will work very effectively and will allow you to wall either the physical or special attackers that you are bringing this Noivern on your team for. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video. So I want to thank you all for watching, and feel free to follow me on Twitch and on Twitter, and bookmark the database in the description that will have all of these Noivern sets, as well as every other set in this analysis series. And also feel free to join the Zat at zat.com/pokegrounds to find people, trade, battle, get some friend safaris, all that good stuff. But anyways, everybody, that is it for this video, as I just said. So thank you all for watching, take care as always, and I will see you all next time.